The proclamation. The council chamber of Orion Prime was a cathedral of politics, vast, domed, and filled with the scent of 100 alien atmospheres. Stained light panels filtered starlight into shards of blue and gold that rippled across the curved marble floor. Delegates of every major species sat in rising tiers, their banners hanging in neat, intimidating rows. Captain Elara Voss stood on the observation platform high above the chamber, her posture rigid, her jaw set. She was here as an observer, not as a participant. Humanity's seat at the council was empty. It had been for months. At the center of the chamber, a tall, thin figure with skin like polished obsidian approached the podium. High Chancellor Tiva, voice like chimes in a cold wind, began to speak. Delegates of the Galactic Council, esteemed representatives, and guardians of peace. Today, we passed Directive 7-7B. A murmur swept the room. Everyone already knew what it meant. The official seal had been leaked days ago. In the interest of galactic stability, Tiva continued, and to prevent further incidents such as Kathar's Belt and the Varanus Cluster, it is hereby decreed that human participation in any sanctioned combat operations is prohibited, effective immediately. Elara's hands curled into fists. The Chancellor's tone remained serenely neutral, but the weight of the words dropped like a gavel. This measure ensures the safety of all. The adaptability and unpredictability of human military tactics, while historically effective, have proven too volatile for the balance of our shared civilization. For the good of the galaxy, humans will no longer serve in armed conflict. A chorus of assent rippled from the seats of the galactic elite, a coalition of species whose fleets had never been able to match humanity in open battle. Others remained silent, their eyes fixed on the floor, and a few, Elara noticed, turned their gazes upward to the human observer platform, as if to see how she would react. She gave them nothing. Not hey. The Chancellor stepped down. A minor delegate from the gentle, winged Cerethi species stood to speak in support. Humans are dangerous. Brilliant, but dangerous. We must not tempt fate. That was enough to start the applause. Measured, polite, inevitable. Elara turned away before they finished. She couldn't stand to watch history reduce her people to a cautionary tale. The shuttle ride back to her dock corvette was silent except for the hum of the engines. She stared out at the glow of Orion Prime's city spires drifting past. In her mind, the Chancellor's words looped over and over. For the good of the galaxy. Her ship, the Resolute, awaited in a private bay. As the airlock sealed behind her, she stripped off the ceremonial officer's coat and tossed it onto the nearest console. The dark green fabric still carried the insignia of a fleet she was no longer allowed to fight for. She poured herself a glass of Titan whiskey, her father's favorite, and let the burn steady her thoughts. The memory came unbidden. Kathar's Belt, 3 years ago. A fractured asteroid field hiding the fleets of the Bracthi Raiders. Every simulation had predicted a catastrophic loss for humanity's third expeditionary force. Elara had ignored the simulations. She had split the fleet into micro-squadrons, used decoy beacons to mimic larger vessels, and drawn the Bracthi into a kill zone they hadn't even realized they'd entered. It had been messy, desperate, and against every rule of Council warfare. It had also saved 43,000 lives. The Council had called it reckless improvisation. The Bracthi had called it human madness. And apparently, both had been right. Her console beeped. An incoming encrypted message, origin untraceable. She hesitated, then opened it. A single line of text appeared on the holo-display. They don't fear what we've done. They fear what we're about to do. No signature, no data packet, just the words, hanging in the air like a challenge. Elara leaned back in her chair, her mind already churning. The Council thought banning humans from combat would neutralize them. They didn't understand. Humans didn't stop fighting because someone passed a law. Somewhere out there, someone knew that too. And maybe, just maybe, they were inviting her to prove it. Shadows of Defiance. The cityscape of New Sol, humanity's capital on Titan, glimmered under the pale glow of Saturn's rings. Towering arcology domes connected by shimmering transit tubes gave the illusion of prosperity, but Elara knew better. The ban had hit hard. Military contracts were gone. Shipyards sat idle. Veterans roamed the streets in worn uniforms, aimless. Elara's corvette settled onto a landing pad in Sector Thalos, a district known for its bars, scrapyards, and unregistered traffic. She wasn't here on official business. She no longer had such privileges. She was here for someone who understood what the ban really meant. She found Jax Wren exactly where she expected, leaning against the counter of a dimly lit space bar called the Drift. His short-cropped hair was more gray than she remembered, but his grin was the same. "Captain Voss," he said, raising a glass. "Was it just Elara now?" "Just Elara," she replied, sliding onto the stool beside him. "I heard you were running your own outfit." "Private security," Jack said with a shrug. "Escorting freighters, clearing pirate nests. You know, work the Council doesn't care about as long as it's not official combat." His voice dripped with sarcasm. "I take it you're not here for a drink." "No," Elara leaned in. "The ban isn't just politics. Someone wants us defenseless." Jax's eyes narrowed. "Go on." "Pirate raids in Sector 9 are up 80%. Civilian freighters are getting hit within sight of Council patrol routes. And the patrols? They don't respond." Jax chuckled without humor. "Sounds like someone's trying to make humanity beg for protection." Before Elara could answer, a shadow fell over the table. The figure was tall, draped in a hooded cloak. When they spoke, their voice was a low, resonant hum. "You're right, Captain Voss," the stranger said. "The raids are no accident." The hood slipped back, revealing the angular, crystalline features of a Zelvar, a species rarely seen outside their own worlds. His facete eyes reflected the dim bar lights like gemstones. "My name is Virek," he said. "I bring you information at great risk. The Galactic Elite have classified human combat capability as Tier Omega." Elara frowned. "Tier Omega is reserved for galaxy-ending weapons." "Exactly," Virek replied. "They fear not what you have done, but what you will do." And while they debate in their chambers, the Sylph Dominion approaches from beyond the Perseus Rim. Jax leaned back. "Sylph? Those things are just a myth." Virek's eyes hardened. "They are real, and they are probing your colonies even now. The Council refuses to acknowledge it, because admitting the threat would require lifting the ban." Elara's thoughts raced. If the Sylph were truly coming, humanity's colonies would be easy prey without trained human fleets. And if the Council knew, then the raids weren't just opportunistic piracy, they were preparation. "Why tell me this?" she asked. "Because I believe the galaxy will need humans when the Sylph arrive," Virek said. "And because I know you will not wait for permission." He slid a small data crystal across the table. "Coordinates, patrol patterns, and intercepted Sylph transmissions. Do what you will, but be careful. The Council is watching for any excuse to make an example of you." Virek rose and left without another word. Hours later, Elara and Jack stood on the deck of the Resolute, reviewing the data. The Sylph transmissions were chilling, short bursts of encoded signals, each tagged with human colony designations. "Reckon. Targeting. They are marking us," Jax muttered. "And the Council's letting them," Elara replied. Her voice was flat, but beneath it boiled a familiar, dangerous resolve. "We can't fight them openly, but we can fight them differently." Jax's grin returned, sharper this time. "You're talking about a ghost fleet. No banners, no official ties, no public records," Elara said. "Just us, a few ships, and allies who don't care about Council laws." "You're going to make them regret banning us," Jax said. Elara met his gaze. "No, I'm going to make them realize why they did." By the next rotation, the Resolute slipped out of Titan's dockyards under a false registry. Its transponder identified it as a civilian cargo hauler bound for the Outer Rim. In reality, its hold was stacked with weapons, stealth drones, and enough supplies for months beyond charted space. The ban had taken away her rank, her fleet, and her flag. But it had not taken away the one thing no Council directive could erase: the will to fight, the unseen war. The Resolute drifted silently through the void, its lights dimmed, hull coated with adaptive camouflage plating. From a distance, it was just another freighter. Up close, it was a wolf pretending to be a sheep. Elara stood over the tactical table, eyes locked on a grainy projection of the Deris outpost, a small mining station at the edge of human territory. The intercepted Sylph transmission from Varek had marked it as a Category 2 harvest site. She didn't want to know what harvest meant. Her crew of volunteers, half ex-military, half civilians with grudges, waited for orders. Jax leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed. "They hit Deris," he said, "and the Council will pretend they didn't see it." "Then we don't let them hit it," Elara replied. The plan was simple: lure the Sylph scout ships into a kill box without exposing humans to direct combat, at least on paper. The Resolute would deploy stealth drones carrying automated weapon pods. The drones would fire first. If the Council reviewed the battle logs, they'd see no human fingerprints. 3 hours later, the Resolute hung in the darkness just beyond Deriscom range. The drones were already in position. All that remained was to wait. It didn't take long. 3 Sylph vessels emerged from the black, sleek, insectoid constructs with glistening, chitan-like hulls. They moved in eerie unison, no visible engine glow, just the shimmer of light bending off their forms. "Drones active," reported Kira, the ship's systems officer. The first drone fired, a burst of kinetic rounds slicing into the lead Sylph vessel. The alien ship staggered in its glide, twisting unnaturally before returning fire, exactly as planned. The drones scattered, drawing the Sylph into the trap. "Bring up the pods," Elara ordered. 10 pods uncloaked, spitting streams of plasma into the enemy formation. One Sylph ship exploded in a flare of green light. Another spun out, trailing shards of its armor. The third tried to retreat, but a final drone strike tore it apart. It was over in minutes. "0 human combatants engaged," Kira said with a faint smirk. Technically is all we need," Elara replied. Over the next 2 weeks, the Vanguard, now more than a single ship, struck silently at Sylph scouts across the sector. Each battle was a ghost story. Ships destroyed with no sign of the attackers, colonies saved before they even knew they were under threat. But the more they fought, the more the Sylph adapted. Their patrols became unpredictable, their ships faster to retreat. And then came the first mistake. The Resolute was shadowing a Sylph raiding party near Threk Station when one of the drones failed to respond. It had taken a glancing plasma hit, enough to fry its remote link. If they didn't destroy it, the Sylph might capture it intact. "Too close to let them have it," Jax said. Elara didn't argue. She climbed into a single-seat strike craft, small, fast, and very much a human-piloted weapon. The Council would call it a violation. She called it necessity. The craft shot from the Resolute's launch bay, engines screaming in the silent void. She weaved between the Sylph ships, plasma bolts slicing past her canopy. The damaged drone drifted ahead, its systems flickering. She armed a micromissile and fired. The drone erupted in a sharp flash. But the Sylph noticed her. 2 of their ships peeled away from the formation, pursuing her back toward the Resolute. She could hear Jax in her ear. "You're coming in hot. Real hot." She swung her craft hard, letting the Sylph overshoot, then dub beneath them. The Resolute's hidden guns opened up, catching both pursuers in a crossfire. They died in streaks of green flame. Elara landed hard, the ship's deck shuddering beneath her boots. She pulled off her helmet to find Jax waiting, arms folded. "You know the Council saw that," he said. "I know," she replied. 2 days later, a Galactic Network bulletin confirmed it. Council warrant issued for Captain Elara Voss. Charges: rogue combatant, violation of Directive 77B, threat to galactic stability. The Resolute's crew gathered in the mess hall, watching the broadcast in silence. Finally, Jax broke it. "They are calling you an existential threat." Elara met his eyes. "Good. Now they are paying attention." The safety they feared. The Sylph didn't come quietly. They arrived in the hundreds, warships like obsidian daggers, blotting out the stars over the colony world of Vandros 3. Civilian transport scattered in blind panic, their distress calls flooding the Galactic Comms network. The Council chamber on Orion Prime was already in emergency session, but the debate was the same as always. Who would respond? No one volunteered. No one dared break the ban. except one. On the bridge of the Resolute, Elara stood at the center console, eyes locked on the tactical display. Green dots, colonial ships, were fleeing. Red, Sylph, were closing in. All Vanguard ships report in, she ordered. One by one, they checked in. The Aegis, Nomad's Wrath, Firewake, and half a dozen more. Human captains, alien sympathizers, and anyone willing to spit in the Council's face. Jack stepped up beside her. Once we go in, there's no walking this back. Elara's gaze didn't leave the display. There was no walking it back the day they banned us. The Vanguard fleet dropped from FTL in a flash of light, right into the Sylph formation. Every Council broadcast node was tuned to the battle, cameras aboard fleeing civilian ships transmitting live. Billions of eyes were watching. Execute Omega Spread, Elara commanded. The fleet split into a dozen unpredictable vectors, darting between Sylph ships in patterns no AI could have predicted. Human captains fought by instinct, rolling their ships through narrow debris fields, feinting retreats before whipping around in vicious counterattacks. Boarding pods slammed into enemy hulls. Marines cut through with plasma torches, taking ships from the inside. It was chaos. It was human combat. The Sylph responded with overwhelming force, but chaos worked both ways. Their rigid formations crumbled under the relentless unpredictability of the Vanguard. The Nomad's Wrath sacrificed her engines to ram a Sylph carrier, detonating it in a blinding flare. The Aegis looped behind two destroyers, crippling them with pinpoint railgun fire. On the Resolute, alarm screamed. A Sylph cruiser had locked on, firing a beam that tore through the aft shielding. Sparks showered the bridge. Target their ventral hull. Elara shouted. The gunnery officer obeyed, and a concentrated railgun volley ripped the cruiser apart. The turning point came when the Sylph command ship, larger than any dreadnought in the Vanguard, moved to escape. Elara knew if it got away, it would return with reinforcements. She took the helm herself. The Resolute dove beneath the massive vessel, hugging its armor so closely the shields crackled with contact. She armed every torpedo and fired at point-blank range. The shockwave threw the Resolute clear as the command ship's spine split, its segmented hull collapsing inward like a dying insect. The rest of the Sylph fleet faltered, then broke. One by one, they vanished into FTL shadows. Silence fell on the bridge. Only the comms remained alive, filled with civilian voices, cheering, crying, thanking the Vanguard. Across the galaxy, the feed replayed the same truth. Humanity had done what no one else could. Jax leaned against the console, breathing hard. That's going to make the Council furious. Elara finally allowed herself a thin smile. Good. Hours later, she stood before the Galactic Council, not in chains, but in her old uniform, the Resolute's crew flanking her. The chamber was tense, split between those demanding her execution and those calling for her reinstatement. High Chancellor T. Voss spoke first. Captain Voss, you violated Directive 7-7B, engaging in sanctioned combat and endangered galactic stability. What do you say in your defense? Elara met his gaze without flinching. You barred us from combat for everyone's safety. And you were right, because when humans fight, nothing in this galaxy is safe. The chamber erupted, some in outrage, some in thunderous applause. The decision would take days, maybe weeks. But Elara knew one thing. The galaxy would never again forget what humanity could do. And somewhere, beyond the edges of known space, the Sylph would remember too.